So stand and remain standing until the conclusion of the reading of the proclamation. Ladies and gentlemen, the proclamation. All persons having any business before this honorable court now draw nigh. Give your attendance, and you shall be heard.
Chief Justice, I have the honour to announce that I've been appointed a Justice of this Court. I present to you my commission.
Thank you, Justice Pike. Please be seated while the commission is read. Acting Principal Registrar, kindly read the commission.
By Her Excellency, the Honourable Margaret Beazley, Companion of the Order of Australia, King's Counsel, Governor of the State of New South Wales in the Commonwealth of Australia. To Ian Robert Pike, Barrister at Law, greeting. Whereas by the Supreme Court Act 1970, it is enacted that the Governor may, by commission under the public seal of the state, appoint any qualified person to be a judge of the Supreme Court of New South Wales. Now I, the Honourable Margaret Beazley, AC, KC, the Governor aforesaid, in pursuance of the power and authority vested in me in that behalf, do, with the advice of the Executive Council of New South Wales, hereby appoint you, the said Ian Robert Pike, being a person qualified to be so appointed, to be a judge of the said court on and from the 30th day of January 2024, with rank and precedence as such in the said court and in the aforesaid state, next after the Honourable Justice Sarah Jane Huggett, one of the judges thereof, provided always that you shall, except in the case of leave of absence duly granted to you, actually execute the office to which you are by this commission appointed, given under my hand and the public seal of the said state, this 13th day of December 2023, Margaret Beazley, Governor. By Her Excellency's command, Michael Daly, Attorney General.
Acting Principal Registrar, do you have the form containing the oaths and the Bible upon which they will be taken? Thank you. Justice Pike, I now ask you to rise and to take the oaths of office, first the oath of allegiance and then the judicial oath.
I, Ian Robert Pike, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, his heirs and successors according to law. So help me God. I, Ian Robert Pike, do swear that I will well and truly serve our Sovereign King, Charles III, in the office of Judge of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and I will do right to all manner of people after the laws and usages of the State of New South Wales, without fear or favour, affection or ill will. So help me God.
Thank you. I invite you to resume your seat and subscribe the oaths, after which I will attest them. Principal Registrar, I hand to you the oaths to be placed amongst the court archives and the Bible, so that you may have the customary inscription inserted into it in order that it may then be presented to Justice Pike as a memento of this occasion. Justice Pike, this court has an enviable reputation for its work in commercial and corporations law. Your appointment to this court today only serves to reinforce that reputation. It has been an appointment enormously well received, as is evident from the very large numbers of people here today, not all of whom were on your personal guest list. But it is a mark of your huge respect in the profession. On my own behalf and on behalf of your new colleagues, we welcome you to the court. We are absolutely confident that you will discharge your new duties with great skill and integrity, and I congratulate you.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Your Honour. May it please the Court. Thank you for the invitation to speak this morning, Chief Justice. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of land, the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I acknowledge our Aboriginal colleagues and friends here this morning. Your Honour, Justice Pike, I welcome you here on this special day and congratulate you on behalf of the Bar and of the people of New South Wales. Also welcome Your Honour's wife, Sue, your children, Ben, Nick and Henry. Also celebrating with you today are your siblings, Stephen and Andrew. They are joined by Andrew's wife, Kaya. Sadly missing from this ceremony are your late parents, Judith and Fred. I know they're watching today, Your Honour. There are many friends and colleagues present today or watching online. They, along with your family, have contributed anecdotes and opinions that speak to the very human side of a man who is much more than the conscientious, hard-working and diligent practitioner whose mastery we witness in our courts. Your Honour was born in 1967 at the Women's Hospital in Sydney and lived in Bondi. Your father, Fred, worked in the Department of Education and the Conservatorium of Music. Your mother, Judith, was a school teacher for children with special needs and later taught English as a second language. You've been described as a conscientious child. Indeed, this is a word that's oft used to describe your approach to learning, to your career, and all your pursuits in life to which you turn your hand. It's also been said that in your youth there was little hint of rebellion. Like your brothers, you were just a good kid. Your school teacher mother would say that you were all beautifully obedient. However, it's interesting to note at this point, perhaps, that certain authorities in Japan may not be as quick to praise your trait of unwavering obedience. Sources close to you have revealed that you recently had your first brush with the long arm of the law in Sapporo, the capital city of the Northern Island, Hokkaido, famous for its beer. You were unfortunate to have been hit with a rare parking ticket in Sapporo, and you were soon shocked to learn that in Japan, being issued with a parking ticket means that you have to present yourself to the police station to explain. The police were somewhat amused that you were a lawyer from down under, a senior one, no less, who had parked in the wrong spot simply to do some shopping. Fortunately, their amusement was matched by their mercy and all ended well. Your Honour, you're the youngest of three, but only by a few minutes. Your twin brother Andrew was always quick to remind you that he won that race. You've described your childhood as a pretty normal Aussie upbringing. The Pike boys loved growing up in Bondi, and who wouldn't? You lived 10 minutes from the beach on Blair Street, and most weekends were spent surfing, playing sport, or joining your dad at the North Bondi Surf Lifesaving Club. You were hard-working at school, a quality instilled into you by your mother. You understood that effort created outcome. You first attended Bondi Beach Public School for primary, then Dover Heights Boys and Dover Heights High for secondary. Neither high school at that time was particularly renowned for its academic prowess, but you helped them out, knuckled down and excelled. Your academic brilliance resulted in an excellent HSC result. This allowed you to be amongst the first in your family alongside your brothers to attend university. The twist in your story is that you did not, in fact, study law. You had no early ambition to be a lawyer, but thought you'd make a good accountant, so you studied economics at the University of Sydney. As expected, you worked hard, not only in class but outside. A normal day for you would begin at 3 a.m, my lord, for work at the fruit markets before attending lectures from 9:30 a.m. It's usually ended with a round of golf with your brothers before some more study. You graduated in 1988, but during your economics course, you discovered a joy in learning the law. And so you began studying for a Bachelor of Laws at the University of Sydney. It quickly became something you really wanted to do. You've also made it clear that you thought a law career would be far more interesting than a career as an accountant, given where today sees you. And looking over your stellar career in law, it appears that you made the right decision in ditching the abacus in favour for the robes and the wig. You graduated in 1990 with first-class honours and started your career as an associate to the Honourable Justice Hill of the Federal Court of Australia. You've called him an amazing mentor. He was a brilliant lawyer and great at educating his associates. His specialty was tax, but during your time with him, you were exposed to many different sorts of matters such as bankruptcy and migration. In 1992, you joined Mallison's Stevens Jacques solicitors as a senior associate. You worked in competition and trade practices. This allowed you to put your economics degree, of course, to good use. It was also at Mallison's where you connected with a couple of other great mentors, people who really influenced your career, Roger Featherston and Justice Trish Henry. They, along with other partners, saw how your diligence, work ethic and other qualities aligned with the rigours of the profession. You worked on matters involving litigation, defamation, contractual disputes, and as always, you continued to learn, to soak everything in, to keep growing. In 1998, you were called to the bar and joined 11 Wentworth Chambers. Your areas of specialty included appellate and commercial law, commissions of inquiry, equity, insolvency, insurance, class actions, trade practices, and competition law. You've represented people suing employers for underpaying them and customers who have sold defective products. You've argued in proceedings about deceptive conduct in business transactions and in disputes involving business franchises. You've also appeared for local residents in contamination cases and land undervaluations, as well as a litany of matters in many other areas of the law. You took silk in 2011. Your colleagues in Chambers say that you're an extraordinarily nice bloke. They describe you as being the heart of the floor. You're approachable and helpful. You are the go-to guy. If people can actually get in to see you, because there's always a queue of people in your room seeking advice. They know you're a good mentor. They also enjoy your turn of phrase to alleviate the stress of submissions. They offer this gem you use regularly as evidence. We are going to the heart of the periphery. They are in awe of your expertise in court. Your favourite part of the job is being a courtroom advocate. They see you switch on as you enter the court. Your intrinsic conscientiousness kicks in and your exhaustive preparation allows you to be the best of advocates. They like that you're old school, practical and knowledgeable with all the necessary skills required. There are no airs or graces. You work hard to find the answers to provide the best outcome. They'll all miss you, but they are excited, of course, for your next steps. Also excited by your next steps are your family. Your partner in all of this is Sue. You describe her as a wonderful wife. Together you've raised 3 fantastic boys in Ben, Nick and Henry. Sue recalls your early visits to her parents' farm near Gloucester in the early days of your courtship, where you, the city boy, decided to have a go at riding the farm motorbike. The bike ended abruptly after you unexpectedly accelerated down the paddock across a dirt road, hit some furrows and flew under a barbed wire fence, missing all the barbers and all the wire, completely uninjured. These days, wisely, you live in the safe confines of Wallara and enjoy taking the dog for a risk-free walk in Centennial Park. You love that Sue and the boys are still all live together with you, and you're excited to see the boys stretch their wings. The beach is still one of your favourite places. We share that, Your Honour. You swim most mornings, and North Bondi Surf Lifesaving Club continues to be a huge part of your life. You're an active member, you've done many years of patrols, and in a professional capacity, you've represented the club in legal matters that arise and help them whenever some thought is required. And I know from our recent conversation, which I'll always remember, that you are proud to give back to an organisation that gave your family, especially your father, so much joy and support. Your family, friends and colleagues think that you will make an exceptional judge, and you will. They're not surprised by this appointment. It's well deserved. They know you'll have an appreciation of everyone's role in the cases that will come before you. You've said that you don't want to be a cranky judge, and you won't be. You describe not wanting to enter the courtroom and have to cut the air with a knife. You want it to be serious but collegiate. You want to give a platform for people to do their best work, create the conditions that are fair to all, and do justice. Your friends know, and we all know, that you'll succeed due to your emotional intelligence and your absolute mastery of the court. Your intent in the role aligns with the values and missions of your beloved Surf Life Saving Club to create a better community and provide the best experience for all. And so, Your Honour, once again, my congratulations to you on behalf of the Bar and of the people of New South Wales. May it please the Court.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Ms. Fernandez, Counsellor of the Law Society of New South Wales.
May it please the Court. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting, the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I extend my respects and welcome to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Your Honour, on behalf of the solicitor twin brother into a career in the law, but only by 3 minutes, as we know, from the birth records. At university, has been said, Your Honour worked at the Sydney Fruit Market, commencing your shift late at night and working hard into the morning. It was perhaps the first taste of the elements of a fast-paced market, which may have provided some insights when Your Honour came to practice competition law later. University was followed by an associateship with Justice Hill in the Federal Court, based in Sydney, which exposed Your Honour to a very wide variety of cases, and where you also met your wife, Sue. Your Honour has recalled the good fortune of working for a brilliant judge with a brilliant mind, and also the good fortune of a sliding doors moment of meeting Sue as fellow associates who you later came to marry and share 3 children with. In early 1992, Your Honour joined Mallesons, as we have heard. It was a springboard that launched you into the world of competition law. Working with a good team of solicitors who were smart, interesting and great at their jobs, Your Honour said that you were lucky to work for partners of the firm Roger Featherston and Trish Henry, now Justice Henry of this court, whom Your Honour may serve briefly with before Justice Henry retires. The competition law group Your Honour was part of was at the forefront of legal work in telecommunications, guiding Telstra through the early days of market exposure in the 1990s. There was also work for litigation partners in a variety of cases, as we've heard. By late 1997, the possibility of becoming a partner in a law firm or pursuing a new challenge at the bar had become a clear choice. Your Honour was drawn to one of the best chambers in Sydney in 1998. On the 11th floor, among many things, Your Honour read with 2 fine tutors. In the early days at the bar, you were retained on a major case known as the Goat Float Fiasco, led by Tom Bathurst, now the Honourable former Chief Justice of New South Wales, and Stephen Raries, now the Honourable Stephen Raries, formerly of the Federal Court of Australia. In 1999, Your Honour was involved in an inquiry into prison officers smuggling drugs into prisons. This led to appearances in several other inquests and commissions of inquiry, including for Sydney Airport Corporation at the inquest into the death of Ms Hawa Ertis, then for the Independent Commission Against Corruption, where Your Honour appeared for Joe Tripodi in Operation Spicer, and for the ANZ Bank in aspects of the Financial Services Royal Commission. There followed an appearance for JKC Australia in proceedings in Singapore, and extensive experience in insolvency and bankruptcy matters, with the exposure to the whole life cycle of companies. Common law work and personal injury cases also made up much of your early work at the bar. Here, Your Honour was fortunate to work with several of the big common law leaders of the day, such as John McConaughey QC, Cliff Hovan, Ian Harrison, now a Judge of Appeal and Chief Judge at Common Law in the New South Wales Supreme Court, and Jim Poulos QC, who all taught Your Honour how to be an effective advocate. The Ellison saga and the 100-day C7 trial, in which Your Honour was the second junior and uttered one sentence, informing the court that someone was running late, also helped shape your practice, even if it was a desire to avoid being a second junior in a long case. Subsequently, your practice branched out, and Your Honour has navigated the treacherous waters of corporate collapses, undertaken appellate work, complex commercial law and equity, ranged into matters of insurance law, professional indemnity, and real property, and appeared in class actions and white-collar crime. Your Honour has had one of the largest commercial and corporations law practices at the New South Wales Bar. Others have said that at the bar, Your Honour was always the one rolling up your sleeves, doing anything from marking up the 40 volumes of court book the night before the hearing, to settling discovery categories, to writing special leave applications. Your Honour was also noted for giving clients clear advice, advising on settlement whenever appropriate and to achieve the best outcome, and always prioritising the most prudent legal path and sound advice for a client. 27 years later, those in turn who have read with Your Honour, as we have heard, have remarked on how welcoming you were on the 11th floor. It was a happy surprise for some to meet a warm, kind, generous and humble person, a, quote, happily normal person, as one colleague put it. Your Honour was noted for making readers feel welcome regardless of their background. Instead, you would give readers and new colleagues opportunities because of who they were, their ability, and because they needed to learn, just as Your Honour had. Likewise, with colleagues at the bar who were starting families, Your Honour was known to be supportive, down to earth, and generous with your time. Your Honour prioritised colleagues' agency and keeping a thoughtful eye on individual welfare. And just as Your Honour was uncertain about the title that came with gaining silk, Your Honour has likewise expressed some discomfort with being called Judge, preferring by all accounts your first name. But Your Honour has revealed that this new challenge, combined with your wife's objection to retirement at such an early age, will make the adjustment worthwhile. Your Honour has said that your parents would be surprised to learn that you're becoming a judge. You've noted that they were both working class people and that you and your brothers were the first people in your family to go to university. Your father, Frank, fought in Borneo in World War II, and both of your parents worked in public service roles their whole working lives. Key to this appointment today is that Your Honour wishes to serve for the good of the public. Your journey to the bench then is not a sudden turn, but a culmination, a natural progression from a life dedicated to law and now to public service to the betterment of our society. Borrowing other people's words, Your Honour comes to this esteemed position not just with a wealth of legal expertise, but also with a deep understanding of the human condition, a compassion born of personal experience and a keen awareness of the ripple effects of legal decisions. The unwavering integrity that has brought Your Honour here today. On behalf of the Law Society of New South Wales, congratulations, Your Honour, as the court pleases.
Thank you, Ms. Fernandez. Justice Pike.
Sorry. Chief Justice, Mr. Attorney, Justices of this court and other courts, distinguished guests, colleagues, family and friends. Can I begin by thanking each and every one of you for attending today, those watching online, and particularly those who have travelled some distance, including my good friends who have travelled from as far afield as Coonabarabran. You do me and the court a great honour by your attendance today. Now, I did wonder the other day how many people would turn up at my swearing in. Obviously now I know. I'm a little surprised, but nonetheless quite chuffed that all of you have come. Thank you, Chief Justice and Mr. Attorney, for the honour and privilege to serve as a Justice of this court, being a court with such a preeminent reputation. I will do my best to uphold and add to that reputation. Can I thank at the outset the other judges and staff of the court who have made me feel so welcome in recent days. Thank you, Mr. Attorney and Ms. Fernandez, for your kind words. I've attended many swearings in over the past 25 or so years and have often wondered how far the speeches have wandered from the truth in the interest of making the subject sound interesting. All that I can say is that not everything said of me just now is true, but I do not feel the need to correct the record on this occasion. Those of you who know me well will know that, unlike perhaps the Chief Justice, I do not like giving speeches or public occasions where I'm anywhere near the centre of attention. I do, however, understand the need for these occasions and certainly am grateful for the opportunity to thank those people who have assisted me in reaching where I have reached today. Now, as you have heard, I grew up in Bondi, which in the 1970s and 1980s was nothing like the place that it is today. It was far more working class. From my recollection, it was then one of New Zealand's largest cities. My two brothers and I had a relatively normal upbringing. We were educated at two local public schools, as you have heard, not only because of the economic circumstances which our family was in, but also because our mother, as a public school teacher, was fiercely proud of public education. She, like my father, firmly believed and instilled into the three of us that hard work was the key to success, particularly hard work at school. This is a philosophy that I've sought to follow throughout my entire working life and instill into my own children. Although, if I'm being frank, I must say that this still seems to me to be a work in progress in relation to those three. To borrow or to pick up from what you said, Mr. Attorney, they are far less obedient than my brothers and I. Unfortunately, my parents passed away many years ago, and in the case of my mother, at far too young an age. I'm certain, however, that they would have been proud of what each of their three children have achieved to date and would have enjoyed the ceremony of today. Now, I fell into the law more by accident. I was initially going to be an accountant, as the attorney has said, but got the marks in the HSC, then decided to do economics law at Sydney Uni. Up until then, my identical twin brother and I had been in all of the same classes at primary and secondary school. We decided it was time to take different paths. So he chose the radically different course of studying commerce law at the University of Sydney, and I did University of New South Wales, and I did economics at the University of Sydney. I very much enjoy university life and the study of law, and I'm delighted that a number of my university friends are here today. After university, as you've heard, I was fortunate enough to be offered the position as an Associate to Justice Hill in the Federal Court of Australia. This was a wonderful learning experience. He was a brilliant lawyer and a fine judge, who unfortunately, like several other judges of the court during the early 2000s, passed away far too young. Now, one distinct recollection that I have of that year was of a young, fresh-faced and eager barrister with a very distinctive red beard, a so-called ginger ninja, who appeared regularly before His Honour, and His Honour often remarked was pretty good and might go somewhere in the law. Now, the red beard has long since gone, but I'm not sure, Chief Justice Gageler, whether you would agree with that assessment of you in 1991. Although I think we would all agree that you have gone somewhere in the law. After my year at the Federal Court, I was lucky enough to be offered a graduate position at Mallison Stephen Jakes, as King Edward Mallison's was then known. I settled in the competition law group, where, like Justice Henry, as you have heard, I had the good fortune to work under Roger Featherston, then one of Australia's leading competition lawyers. I also had the good fortune to work with a number of other partners of the firm, several of whom I'm delighted to say I'm joining on the court. I learned a lot in that period. I'm a little sad that I will only work again with Justice Henry for a short period, although I am certain that regular interaction with Her Honour would have brought back to me the traumatising memories of walking into Justice Henry's office to have a letter settled. As I walked in, the cap was already off the red pen, poised to make corrections, no doubt improvements from the first paragraph to the last. Now, my leaving of Mallison to move to the bar was not born out of any long-term plan to be a barrister, but rather a desire for a change from the daily grind of the work as a competition lawyer, working long hours on the early telco fights between Telstra and Optus. I thought that the bar would be a good change for me, providing a bit of variety, and it certainly did that. As you have heard, I read with James Stevens, or as you've heard, when I came to the bar, I read with two outstanding barristers. They were James Stevenson, SC, and Chris Hodgkiss, SC. I'm delighted to be joining the evergreen Justice Stevenson on this court, but also a little disappointed that the recently retired Chris Hodgkiss is unable to be present today because of ill health. Now, one of the reasons I've had a varied practice at the bar is that I was fortunate enough to be offered a reading position on the 11th floor, which was then, as it is now, one of the leading chambers in Sydney, brimming with the best and brightest of the Sydney bar. I had the benefit of having Paul Daly OOM as my clerk for a large part of my time at the bar, with all of the benefits that provided. One of the benefits in my early years at the bar was to work with a number of Sydney's leading common law silks who were then on the floor. This exposed me to going on country circuits and a wide variety of work far removed from the work which I then predominantly did, which was in the Federal Court. I learned a great deal from those silks and indeed from the other silks and juniors who have occupied the 11th floor with me over the past 27 or so years. I owe them all a great debt. Now, as Ms Fernandez said, one of my early cases at the bar was a professional negligence case arising out of what was described as a failed goat float, which was an attempt to publicly list a company whose business was the farming of goats in Burke. The float was, perhaps unsurprisingly, a spectacular failure, leading to the country solicitor, who was a director of the float vehicle, being sued. I was told, although did not cite him, that I was being led by Bathurst QC. As the former Chief Justice then was, although he was nowhere to be seen when the case was brought on at short notice to take the evidence of the plaintiff, who had fallen seriously ill with a terminal illness and was being treated in Burke Hospital. Reris SC, who I came to learn had perhaps a slightly different approach to Bathurst, was brought in to lead me, and off we went to Burke Hospital on a chartered plane. The case not only exposed me to my first out-of-court hearing, but was my first exposure to working with Reris. Apart from Reris telling me he had been chased by a goat on his morning run, and we both having a ride in a paddy wagon, one distinct memory that I still have is of Reris' well-known food allergies, which were a particular challenge for the proprietors of the local Chinese restaurant in Burke, and saw Reris eating the kids' fish and chips and side salad for dinner on several occasions. I had many more enjoyable times doing cases out of Sydney, including interstate and overseas, but I won't test your patience with more stories today. Now, the 11th floor was my professional home for virtually all of my time at the bar. It was a fantastic place to work due to the good people who are on the floor. I will miss them greatly. One thing I will particularly miss is the regular interaction I had with my colleagues, where, as I got older, I was usually the one being asked for guidance, normally by the most junior members of the floor, on what were quite often very difficult questions. I hope that I was able to help in some small way and carry on the fine tradition that I benefited so much from in my early years at the bar. I've no doubt that the tradition is being carried on by the current senior members of the floor. I also wish to publicly acknowledge the assistance which the loyal staff of the 11th floor have provided to me over the years, in particular the aforementioned Paul Daly OAM, Zach Reimer, Anne Dayton and Mandy Allen. I'm also grateful for the assistance of my professional assistants, initially Simone Fuller and more recently Caroline Gann, have provided to me during my time at the bar, and I'm delighted that Caroline is coming to the court as my associate. Now, during my period as a junior barrister, I worked with many leading silks and learnt greatly from them. For fear of leaving someone out, I do not propose to name them today. In my time more recently as a silk, I've had the benefit of many fantastic juniors who I've enjoyed working with and coming to know on a personal level. It has been a source of immeasurable pride and joy for me to see those juniors prosper, including an ever-increasing number taking silk. To all of the solicitors who have briefed me over the years, many of whom I see here today, from the sole practitioners to the large law firms, I say a huge thank you for briefing me and for the tremendous assistance that you provided to me over the years. Again, I feel there are too many of you for me to name today, and no doubt if I tried, I would leave some of you out. Again, however, a big thank you. Whilst I'm sad to be leaving the bar, I'm also quite excited by the new challenges that have been presented to me. I'm particularly looking forward to receiving assistance from the advocates who appear before me. Now, I've always thought that the mark of a good barrister is how they perform in court, although I cannot help but say on this occasion that one trend I've observed in my time at the bar is the rise of the legal directories and the increasing effort that appears to be going into cultivating rankings in those directories. As a judge, I hope I will be exposed to a wider variety of counsel appearing before me than I appeared against as counsel, and I'm looking forward to comparing my own views of quality with those set out in the directories. Can I end by saying a little bit about those most important to me, my family? I've already thanked my parents a little, but feel the need to do so again. I'm here because of the upbringing they gave me and the values they instilled in me. I also thank my two brothers and their families for the ongoing support which you have provided to me and to my family over the years. I also thank Sue's family, including my brother-in-law, who often reminds me of his different perspective on the legal profession. Now, you've heard a little bit about my twin brother, who unsurprisingly, after that radical tertiary education choice that I referred to earlier, has also had a career in the law, although a far more public one than me, given his role at Herbert Smith Freehills. People have often remarked that Andrew is the smarter of the two of us. That is no doubt correct. He won the race out of the birth canal, and our respective HSC marks all those years ago prove it. Now, it obviously continues to the present day. Like me, Andrew has also in recent times thought about his future working arrangements. His change, however, involves working 3 days a week, playing golf on Fridays, and no doubt spending more time with his young family. Now, I must say I was tempted, Chief Justice, to put a submission to you to be allowed a similar working week, although I suspect that such a submission would result in a similar outcome to at least one of the appeals I argued before, Your Honour, where it was observed that my advocacy justified my client coming a well-deserved second. Finally, to my immediate family. You've heard that we have 3 boys, Ben, Nick and Henry. Thank you for your unwavering love and support. Perhaps more importantly, thank you for trying to keep me young and in touch with reality, for the constant and difficult challenges that you continue to provide to Sue and me as parents, and for leaving me in no doubt that not everything I say to you is correct. I've no doubt that none of that will change. Sue and I are immensely proud of each of you, and we look forward to continuing to watch you grow and develop as adults. To Sue, the most important person in my life, I know that you are probably at least equal with me in disliking public occasions where you are one of the subjects of discussion, but I cannot let today pass without publicly acknowledging your role. You are the rock on which our family is founded. You've sacrificed so much for me and the boys. Without you and your unwavering support, I would not be sitting here today. Thank you for the encouragement you have provided to me in taking up this new role, and I look forward to many more wonderful years with you. Can I conclude as I began by thanking you all for coming here today?
Thank you, Justice Pike. The court will now adjourn.
All stand. This honourable court is now adjourned.